T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Kush's Corner here on the Trap Talk Reptile Network, the coolest reptile network in the world. Tonight, I'm joined once again by Mr. Terry Cullen of the Dragonwood Wildlife Conservancy, and we have a pretty interesting topic for tonight. We're going to be talking about CITES. Everybody who is involved in reptiles for some amount of time, especially if you are working with any species that are not very common hobby species, you've heard of CITES, you've had to deal with CITES. CITES is a convention on the international trade of endangered species, and it dictates a lot of what we do with our hobby and our industry and the animals we can work with, how and where we can source them, in what numbers, the ability to import, export, etc. So Terry has obviously dealt with CITES for decades upon decades. He's a part of the IUCN Crocodilian Specialist Group, which is a part of CITES. So I'm excited to learn from Terry tonight about CITES. Before we get into that, of course, though, as always, USARC. So USARC is the organization that is fighting for our rights to keep our reptiles, to run our reptile businesses, and to live this lifestyle. Check out usarc.org for everything you need to know about the organization. That website is also where you can find alerts to new pieces of legislation introduced either at the local levels or the national level. That website is also where you can find alerts on any pieces of legislation, updates, on the progress of any pieces of legislation as well. USARC.org is also where you can become a member of the organization. As a community, we have strength in numbers. The more people that are behind the cause, the better. And here we are. Thank you to everybody who is tuned in, either live or checking it out after the fact. If you are here on YouTube and are not already, please subscribe to the Trap Talk Reptile Network. New podcasts come out every single day of the week, sometimes even twice a day, from some of the best hosts in the game, talking about a wide variety of topics from within the reptile world. So if you are a reptile podcast fan, you have certainly come to the right place. But if you are like myself and are more of an audio person, we are on all the major platforms. We've got Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, wherever you get your podcast from. You can find the Trap Talk Reptile Network. Follow and a 5-star review would be most appreciated on any of those platforms. And, leave a comment. All that is very much appreciated. For me in particular, if you want to support everything that I have going on, the podcast, and get kind of behind the scenes access, inside scoops, first access to projects with everything I have going on, patreon.com/CushReptile is the place to go. At that site, 50% of all membership fees immediately become credit towards the purchase of a future animal, and that credit never expires. Like I said, early access to everything that I let go, and we're really building a pretty cool community over there. Got a bunch of really awesome people who are already part of the Patreon, so if you guys could check it out, that would be absolutely most appreciated. We are having some minor, I believe, technical difficulties with Terry, but with that said, we're going to roll the commercials here at the beginning, get that out of the way, so once Terry's on the show, we can just get going. So sit tight, everybody. We will be back in a few minutes, hopefully with Terry.
Sorry for the interruption, folks, but a quick word from our sponsors. Shout out to tonight's sponsor brought to you by ZooMed.
ZooMed is proud to be supporting the Trap Talk Reptile Network. At ZooMed, reptiles are our passion. For over 48 years, we've been creating premium foods, supplies, and habitats for reptiles and other exotic animals. We're a company made up of hobbyists that test our products on the hundreds of animals that we care for here every single day. Whether you're an established breeder or a first-time hobbyist picking up your first ball python, ZooMed has you covered with everything you need to keep your animals happy and healthy.
I'm excited to talk about this new product with ZooMed called the Slither Sense. It is a remote temperature and humidifying monitoring system, which we all know how important temperature and humidity is to your reptile. And for you to have remote access to your temperature and your humidity in your reptile room could really, really be a game changer for the longevity of you keeping reptiles. So guys, make sure you check out that product. Find the link in the description below. Click on it right now. Give me your feedback in the comments below. Let me know how you're liking a brand new Zoo Med product. Shout out to tonight's sponsor, Workshop Reptilium. Josh Hansen is doing things different over in his facility. He has one of the most diverse, beautiful reptile collections currently in the reptile hobby today, but he is doing things differently when it comes to enclosures, thinking outside the box, giving these reptiles bigger enclosures. I feel like it's something this hobby needs. So a lot of exciting stuff to come from Workshop Reptilium. I'm going to be flying up to his place to give you guys a deeper look into his facility. And I'm also excited to have an episode with Josh so he can explain himself where his goals are headed when it comes to keeping. Thank you so much, Josh Hansen over at Workshop Reptilium. Make sure you head over to Instagram. Make sure you head over to Facebook. Also, make sure you subscribe to him on YouTube. You can find all the links in the description below. Again, thank you so much, Josh, over at Workshop Reptilium. Shout out to tonight's sponsor, and that's the one and only Morph Market and Morph Market Shipping. One of the biggest exciting things about the reptile hobby over the past couple years is Morph Market Shipping taking everything to the next level. Anything as far as reptile purchasing or selling needs can all be done on Morph Market's website. So I highly suggest you go check it out, especially if you're in the market of purchasing your first, second, or third, or fourth reptile. You can find a bunch of legitimate breeders on Morph Market's platforms. They stand very tall on representing the best breeders we have in the hobby. So don't look anywhere else when it comes to looking for your new reptile. Not to mention, if you're looking for aquatics or your next plant, Morph Market's a spot for you as well. Make sure you head over to morphmarket.com. And the best thing about Morph Market's platform, you could ship directly from their website with Morph Market Shipping. Morph Market Shipping has saved this hobby millions of dollars as a whole. I myself saved thousands with Morph Market Shipping last year due to their insanely cheap rates. So definitely go take advantage of these rates on top of the amazing customer service that comes along with Morph Market Shipping. Shout out to Darian and Zach, and shout out to the entire Morph Market team. So proud to be a part of this team. Thank you so much for Morph Market Shipping and Morph Market, and so excited to announce new Morph Market features that are going to be hitting the reptile hobby real soon, like live sales on Morph Market. Thank you so much, Morph Market and Morph Market Shipping. Shout out to Focus Cube Habitats, the #1 PVC enclosure in the reptile industry, hands down. Everything you guys see behind me are 3x2x2 PVC design enclosures by Stephen and Ashley over at Focus Cube Habitats. My entire room at this point, all Focus Cube Habitat enclosures, and that is for a real reason. My reptiles love them. I've had majority of these Focus Cube Habitats behind me for over 6 years now. So guys, if you're looking to expand your reptile room and get yourself some new enclosures, no better place to visit than Focus Cube Habitat. You head over to focuscubedhabitats.com and see how many different design enclosures you could choose from. And you can also follow them on Instagram and stay updated with all current new enclosures on their YouTube channel. So thank you so much, Stephen and Ashley over at Focus Cube Habitats. And I think I got new enclosures in the driveway, so I gotta go. Shout out to Focus Cube Habitats, you are the best.
For over a decade, we've pursued a singular vision, producing the finest breeding stock the hobby has ever seen. From carefully planned pairings to thoughtfully designed environments, every detail is considered. And when you bring one of our animals home, you're not on your own. We provide lifetime husbandry support every step of the way. Whether you're building your first enclosure or expanding your collection, we're here for you. Sundown Reptiles.
Tonight's episode is brought to you by Mark Hager over at Texas Chondros. If you want to talk to somebody who likes to put people on the map, you have to go follow TX Chondros on Instagram. He has put on some of the biggest breeders out in Texas, out on his platform on Instagram. Also displays some of his own amazing projects on his Instagram. You could also simply go to his website, see what pairings he has going on for this season, and also see his previous productions. Mark has been working with yellow neonates on top of red neonates, and his passion for this hobby is second to none. He's also mentored a lot of people like myself. So thank you so much, Mark Hager, for all your support. And if you guys really want to know how it is about building a community, then you got to go check out Texas Chondros. Thank you so much, Texas Chondros, for all your support. Cannot wait to see what you're all about in the 2026 breeding season. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Mark Bailey Reptiles, my mentor and definitely my favorite ball python breeder we have today. 40 plus years, full-time reptile keeper. He's just been a huge inspiration ever since I met him. And also, if you really want to see what his work is all about, you could just simply go to morphmarket.com, type in Mark Bailey Reptiles, give him a follow. And anybody who has gotten a snake from Mark Bailey Reptiles have been super happy, and that's going for 40 plus years. So very honored and very happy to not only call Mark Bailey Reptiles a friend of mine, but also a sponsor of tonight's show. Definitely appreciate your support, Mark Bailey. Definitely look up to everything that you do. Shout out to Mark Bailey over at Mark Bailey Reptiles.
All right, everybody. Sorry for the extended, crazy long commercials there. Unfortunately, the technical difficulties continue. I'm still actively working to get Terry onto the show. So please bear with me for a second while I work on this. This is the problem with live podcasting, ladies and gentlemen. It has its fun aspects, and then it has its very much not fun aspects. So this is one of those non-fun aspects that we are currently dealing with at the moment. But at this point, we will either have the episode with Terry or we won't. I guess there's no two ways about it. So I mean, excited to learn more about CITES tonight. Yeah. Great ads. Yes, Marcus, you're right. The ads are fantastic. Shout out to MJ. I mean, I guess until we get into that, man, I'm excited. Trap Fest is next week officially, and for anybody who hasn't been to Trap Fest, it's quite the fun time. It's going to be interesting this year because this is the first time that MJ has thrown the event not linked with the Reptile Super Show, and it that comes with its pros and cons. The obvious cons being that plenty of people who would come to Trap Fest would be in town for the Super Show, and obviously that's no longer the case, where anybody who's going to be coming out for Trap Fest is going to be coming out specifically for Trap Fest. It just so happens to be that it's in San Diego, so I don't know many people who complain about having to go to San Diego. If you do, man, I don't know what to tell you. So it'll be an interesting dynamic considering that there's no show to go along with it, but at the same time, that kind of reduces a lot of the stress around the weekend as well. Not having to drive up to LA or even multiple back and forths from San Diego to LA. Anybody who's either from there or been out there knows just how absolutely miserable that traffic can be if you hit it at the wrong time. So, that not needing to kind of constantly switch locations is going to be pretty nice. And then just having more time down there in San Diego. From what I understand, it's still going to be a pretty similar crowd to what it typically is. So, I think that, I guess got to give a shout out to MJ for really having built up this event to something that is worth making a trip out of just on its own. That is definitely not something that is easy to accomplish. What I kind of can equate it to at this point is like Carpet Fest, where Carpet Fest was always just a standalone event. I don't believe Carpet Fest was ever necessarily linked with a show. And, especially, I mean, shoot, a lot of the Carpet Fest, the Northeast, obviously where it started, I've never been to one personally, though I'd very much like to go the next time they have one. They have a huge amount of people show up to that event. The Florida Carpet Fest that they had done at the Reptile Preservation Institute, I went to the one in 2020, and it was a packed event. Again, no show to go along with it. The one in the Texas, et cetera. These events didn't have shows linked, and same like with Bill Stiegel, what he does before the NARBCs, typically that were in Arlington and then Dallas. Now there's not one in the fall, and it's still going strong. So it's kind of cool because it takes away that extra added element, and you can kind of really just be like fully involved in what's going on there. I believe typically when I've gone out for the recent Trap Fest that have been Trap Fest / Pomona weekend, I have had animals that I've brought in it. It just adds a whole other layer of stress, and then you have to be schlepping animals around, and not just because that adds a little extra stress, but for the animals themselves. If you're going out to vend the show, you drive out, you get there on Friday or whatever, cool. But if you're going early, you're getting there Wednesday or Thursday, those animals are in their containers for the better part of a week. Not ideal. With that said, though, we have a guest here in the studio finally. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen. Take that as a maybe.
Speak to me.
I cannot hear you. I'm not sure if the audience can. If anybody who's in the live chat can say otherwise. Yeah, we can hear him. Oh, well, that's interesting. Okay, I think maybe I have it now. All right, I'm pretty sure I'm good now. So this is a me thing. Hi, Terry. we made it.
Are we there?
Yes. Okay, here we are. Great
Slaves to modern technology.
Yep. Yeah. Oh man. All right. Well,
It's even got my name spelled wrong. That's amazing. Folks, this is not Terry Cullen, it's Terry Cullen.
No, you got it's right on my end.
Oh Lord. Don't ask me how that can happen, but it did.
Well, that's all right. It's gonna work
Who
out.
cares at this juncture.
Exactly.
Hello everyone, and I'm sorry about my late arrival here. I was actually here trying to do this on my new computer and failed miserably, even though I had the help of two expert people. They couldn't figure it out either. So let's get into trouble here and talk.
Yes, let's do that. Yeah, when you floated this idea about doing like a discussion about CITES, that definitely caught my attention because as anybody in herpetoculture for long enough will know, CITES is a concept you come across at one point or another, whether you're dealing with attempting to get CITES listed animals or with some of the U.S. native stuff that's CITES 1 and DSA, dealing with the interstate commerce type of legislation and whatnot. So I think something, discussion breaking down what CITES really is, how it works, the functionality, I think is going to be very important for a lot of people.
What you have to first realize is that CITES has nothing to do with ESA.
Right.
Those are two completely unrelated entities, and one of them is relatively well researched and carefully monitored. One of them is whoopee, hello, okay, goodbye.
I wonder which one is which.
Yeah. Yeah, ESA is just unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. And I mean that in just about every manner.
Yeah, we have a lot of useless bullshit legislation in this country. The ESA is up there with some of the most useless bullshit legislation that we have. It serves no purpose, frankly.
If anything, it harms native populations and populations elsewhere. It makes working with the animals and doing research with the animals almost impossible. We'll talk about CITES a little bit first, then we can work and slaughter the ESA. For those of you who are not familiar with me, I work in conservation. I work in herpetological medicine, and also work in lots of other stuff having to do with reptiles, amphibians, and a few other animals. And I have been fighting for almost my entire life ridiculous laws, regulations, call them what you will. If they were things that were carefully done, for instance, in Argentina, we've been working on bringing back the broad-nosed caiman, which was almost extinct about 35 years ago. Now there are probably 16, 17,000 of the animals. It's been very successful. And it's been successful because of CITES. CITES is an arm of the IUCN, International Union for Conservation of Nature, the largest conservation group in the world. We are home based in Switzerland with arms just about every civilized country in the world. There are a few missing, but they're more political than anything else. But the people who work on CITES, run CITES, and so on, really are the best of the best in the world. And the legislation with CITES and the ups and downs of what goes on with CITES are really quite reasonably and carefully controlled. They have recent meetings for almost everything. They stay in touch with the people, the indigenous or autochthonous people who are always involved. And CITES takes a different view of conservation than ESA ever could. If something looks like it's going to work, CITES is not against using it. They're not against trying different means. They're not against involving the local people. They're not against making exceptions. ESA is just unbelievably rigid, and most of the time based on very little good information. The net result, as it was put to me many years ago by a good friend of mine who was a member of the AZA, another very interesting group, he said, you know, what we're doing is basically legalizing captive extinction. And that has always stuck with me, because that's exactly what it is. They are creating legislation that in the long run will cause extinction of animals in captivity. And of course, that will then move its way into the wild.
Right.
At a time when we should be finding newer and better ways to get these animals into groups that will stay for years as I'm looking for a word here. If you can picture a situation where every major country has 13, 14, 15 groups of animals that they will specialize in and that they will hold as assurance colonies, that's the kind of thing that we should be aiming for, the kind of thing where we have active concerns with regard to how we handle these animals, how we study these animals, and what we do with the animals once we produce them.
Yeah.
All of these things are important. All of these things are essential, not just important. And they're completely overlooked by ESA. You know, how often do they put something back into the wild? Well, their idea is the only way to do it is you basically cut off all commerce, all everything. And does it work for some species? Yes, but it's not the easiest way by any means. We could be doing so much more, so much more. People in other countries cannot figure out what in the world is going on with the US when they have to move animals from one place to another. In most cases, you might as well forget about it. It takes months and months and months to get something approved to go into or out of the United States.
Yeah.
And by that time, everybody, I'm sure, is familiar with clouded leopards. Clouded leopards almost completely bit the dust thanks to the ESA. The gentleman who was breeding them almost at will, finally, in a public demonstration, killed all of his breeding stock because they wouldn't allow him to move those animals anywhere. He couldn't afford to keep them. Is that really what we want? We want to kill animals that are critically endangered because you won't allow someone to move them around or even get some money for them. There's no reason why that couldn't happen. Work with it in a pragmatic nature don't sit there and figure out new and stupid regulations. And they're generally proposed by people who have very little expertise in what they're doing. It's sad. It's really sad.
Yeah, it sure is. And, I think for me and many others, you explain the rationale of the ESA when it comes to U.S. native species. It's like, okay, maybe. But like, let's, you can, with any sort of exotic, let's say, for instance, with, the Malagasy tortoises, let's say radiated tortoises, for instance, okay, we can limit whatever commerce in the U.S. we want to. How the heck is that going to stop a poacher in Madagascar from grabbing more tortoises?
It does absolutely nothing. If anything, it harms it because it keeps the people who should be in on the game out of it.
Right.
The Galapagos tortoises are a perfect example. The breeding potential for the AZA and all its institutions is basically zero. They've made whatever breedings they could do. Anything further is going to be serious inbreeding, and it's all over with. Can't move them, can't do anything to them with them. By God, you don't want to deal with those horrible people that are not AZA. It's like the Catholic Church or something of reptiles and animals. And almost all of the fresh breedings have come to light as being products of private individuals, private people, real live people. Why is this never acknowledged? Why aren't these people working in tandem with each other? The very definition of conservation takes into account the idea that we all work together in a common goal. It's like, even the Republicans and even the Democrats will be working on the same side. That's what it should be. And instead, it's a bunch of lily-livered fools who sit there and pick their nose and tell people what a great job they're doing, when much of the time they're doing nothing. They're coming up with new regulations and allying themselves with crazy groups of alleged animal rights people. I have for years marveled at the fact that nobody sees this. It's like, what happened to people? How many times did these people hit their heads before they spoke? The lack of science behind this is pitiful. It's just pitiful. I'm making generalizations. Yes, I know some things are done right, but the majority are really not. They really aren't, not in this country. I had 4 cyclura that were supposed to be sent over to me from Germany, and they were supposed to be exempt because of their lineage. And I went through hell trying to get them here. And after 3 years, I had to give up completely, and it had cost me over $4,000 of money that I really didn't have.
Jeez.
It was just a complete cluster. It was a horrible situation. And, all modesty aside, I've probably done more work and know more about the cyclura than anybody that I'm aware of. I spent years and years and years with them. Been involved with them, bringing them back from various parts of the world, breeding them, and being the first to breed a number of the species. I guess that doesn't count anymore. Doesn't matter what your quality is. Just if you join the group and say, animal bad, animal people are bad, and one chant after another that makes no damn sense. If it sounds like I'm a little angry, that's just a myth. I'm actually a lot of angry because we've lost so many opportunities to save species of animals, but more than that, to impact areas and situations where we are protecting habitat. We always have to look at protecting habitat as almost the number one situation. There are some others having to do with pollution and so forth, but really, if an animal has enough habitat left, it'll come back on its own. And we're doing very, very little of that.
Yeah.
Very little. And yes, hey, geez, I just read a couple of things about their wolf programs. It's just, might as well just go out and shoot them. It's just beyond. There were several private wolf rescue organizations, and they've basically been pushed out of existence. And if those groups had no other benefit than the fact that they were at least telling people about these animals and showing what they really were, they would still be very valuable. But the three that have gone out of business in the last year were really good operations, small in some cases, but they were very good operations. And it's been just madness. I had somebody yesterday trying to make sense of the fact when I told them that there are directives at the AZA that you should scramble the eggs of many species of endangered animals. Scrambling is just what it sounds like. You destroy the eggs.
Yeah.
And maybe let one out of 15 or 20 hatch.
Yeah.
How dumb is that? How do you know you've got good material with one animal selected out of a group? That's a waste of time, money, and quite possibly putting inferior animals back into the wild. Am I making sense with that, Stephen?
Yeah, definitely.
It's just, wow. And the lack of pragmatism when it comes to conservation is horrible. You look again in certain other countries where they are so much better off than we are. However, I will have to point out that Australia is notorious for taking our mistakes and amplifying them, thinking that they're following, the big guy.
Yeah. They're
starting to get out of that now. And I'm a senior member of the crocodile specialist group. And within the past few years, they've been doing more work with the indigenous people, more understanding of what happens with these animals when they are moved from one place to another, what happens when you mess with the breeding. They're learning a lot of stuff. And they're doing it in ways that the U.S. would never consider. Take a look at our alligator populations. It's not the same animal that it was 150 years ago. If you saw a skeleton of one that was fleshed out today, as opposed to something that was fleshed out in 1850, two different animals. Doesn't that tell you something?
Yeah.
Shouldn't that tell you something? I don't know. If anybody has any opinions here, please yell at us. We'd love to hear them.
Yes, definitely. Most certainly.
You are not just welcome to ask questions or make comments. I guess I have to get to the point where I'm demanding that you do this. This is the only way we're going to get anywhere. And it's the only way we're going to stop this rabid, crazy stuff that's going on with every boondock little town in the world following God knows who. But they're going to have even stricter regulations than the guy down the street.
Yeah.
It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. wait till that starts. Well, I shouldn't even say that. I was going to say wait till it starts affecting dogs and cats. Well, it already is. Any of the bully breed dogs are pretty much off the table in many counties and many townships.
Oh, wow.
And what are they going to do then? Then about half the world is going to be presented as criminals. So instead of making criminals, why don't we educate people? Why don't we work with people? We don't do anything to help these people. People are impulse buyers, especially when it comes to animals. They shouldn't be allowed to do that. I don't mean by legislation. I mean the people who are selling the animals should take responsibility, sit the person down and say, hey, I really don't think this is the right thing for you. Or could I suggest one of these for you? Because it sounds like your situation would be just perfect for this little guy. But start educating and stop just handing these things out like, Tootsie Rolls. We don't do anywhere near the education we should be doing. And we don't do anywhere near the fighting that we should be doing against these crazy things where we spend millions of dollars on falsified crap that should be spent on habitat acquisition, should be spent on education, should be spent on new studies on these animals to find out what they need, what they don't need, where they are, where they're not. Real honest to God science. Not just lists of everything you can't do. What does that do for us? We're supposed to be getting closer to nature, not further away, and we're walking away by the mile, going down the road, further and further away from what conservation was originally meant to see and be.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have a question here. Good question too. So why does USFW feel the need to enforce the Lacey Act on certain Australian wildlife, for example? And he left a follow-up comment of that entered the U.S. legally with CITES paperwork. So some of these kind of retroactive uses of the Lacey Act.
Yeah, read that one to me one more time. I was trying to adjust my volume here.
Yeah, so why does U.S. Fish and Wildlife feel the need to enforce the Lacey Act on certain Australian wildlife that entered the U.S. legally with CITES paperwork?
Oh, yeah, that's all I can do is laugh. It's really sad.
Yeah.
Do they lie to you? Of course they do. You try so hard to do everything correctly, and they snuff you out like you don't exist. And now, finally, some of the zoos are beginning to feel it as well. The zoos really need revamping. They are not the organizations that they were originally meant to be, and they have lost sight of what they should be doing. Not all of them, but many of them. The number of animals in virtually every zoo has declined significantly. Oh, everybody thinks that's great. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to cut little ones out of cardboard and paste them into the cages? You'll have a lot of visitors for that, won't you? But we're getting to that point.
Yeah.
I went to Lincoln Park not long ago, and years ago, I had a very close relationship with that place and did work with them. And I'm talking about well over 50 years ago. And they were a small zoo, but man, they cranked stuff out like it was going out of style. Animals that other people couldn't figure out how to breed, they did it. They did a lot of work. They had a wonderful old reptile house, old style reptile house, but they made it work.
Yeah.
It was fun to look at. It was fun to be around. It had a good feel to it. It was replaced by complete elimination and 6 or 7 snakes and a couple of lizards spread around the zoo in unrelated enclosures. What does that have to do with anything in the world? There's no continuity there. You can go to virtually any reptile show and see anything and everything that they have at the Lincoln Park Zoo, and buy one for yourself if you want.
Yeah, maybe
That doesn't do us any good.
Yeah, there was probably African dwarf crocs, and then that cyclura species I can't remember. That is definitely not in the private trade. Aside from that, everything is pretty standard issue.
Yeah. They had an incredibly good record with gorillas and orangs. I mean, people were taking orangs home with them to help foster them, and because they were producing so many. And then they got sent to other places, and were part of breeding groups and so on and so forth. Snow leopards, my God, they were putting them into doggy kennels because they ran out of space for them. And that didn't mean they were mistreated. It meant that we found other places for them, and temporarily they might have been a little crowded, but they were healthy. They were doing exceptionally well, and animals were being bred that other people only dreamed of doing. Yeah. You don't need space to the point of ridiculousness when you're breeding animals. Most animals, as long as they have enough to make it feel like they've got their own areas, that they have ways of demarcating what's theirs and what isn't, that's more important than the number of acres they've got in most cases. Not every case, but in most cases. Elephants are a little different story, but not as much as you think if you give them a little fun time and get them used to being worked with like the mahouts did years ago. Some of the lessons that we should have learned from people in other countries have never been passed down. Don Meyer, who was a mahout from the United States, best elephant guy in probably the entire North American area. He was a really interesting man. He was a lot of fun. He was very funny. He loved the animals dearly, but he was also very, very practical in his approaches to conservation and training and working with the animals. And he taught me a number of things that I wouldn't trade for anything. And one of the things that he taught me was he was one of either 2 or 3 people who knew how to do what was called proofing of animals. Something incredibly valuable that I learned. Someday I'll do a program on that. But it allowed me to do things and get away with things. I'm not telling you I was doing something bad or wrong. I just mean things that other people would have considered risky, that weren't risky because I knew a different way of doing it. I was able to establish a different situation. I was able to work with animals in different ways than other people did. And Stephen, I think you can probably attest to some of that. You've seen some of what I do.
Definitely. No question. All right. So I kind of want to get into a little bit of the CITES topic, kind of just at the, kind of break it down to the base level of, what exactly CITES is, why does it exist? So, when was the inception of CITES? When was it started, and what was the original purpose for organizing CITES?
The date escapes me at the moment. It's been around quite some time.
Yeah.
But the CITES has had a purpose, and for the most part, they've achieved what they set out to be. Each group of animals has a specialty group as a spin-off. There's the snake group, there's the various types of whales, and then those groups are broken down into subgroups as well. You've got people who really care about what they're doing, people who know what they're doing, and people who will get slapped into shape if they don't behave correctly and do what's best for the animals. I make that sound more severe than it actually is, but there's a lot of peer pressure in CITES. Peer pressure to do things correctly, and also peer pressure to work with other people who are doing some of the same things that you are, rather than it being an ego contest.
Yeah.
And the U.S. is famous for ego contests, sadly. And this is all the way from the universities to the museums to you name it. It's embarrassing compared to what it was 70, 80 years ago.
Yeah.
CITES was developed to have a reasonable way of dealing with on-site and on-site and off-site, in situ and ex situ conservation and work that you want to see happening with these various endangered species. But what's also important is that CITES tries to follow a lot of animals that are not endangered yet. That's the best thing possible, right? Let's make sure that we're doing the right thing for these other animals that haven't quite gotten to that point. Kind of like what I'm doing with anacondas, where they're not considered to be endangered. Some people consider them threatened. But if you knew how anacondas lived, if you really, really knew, you'd see a very, very frightening pattern that's gone on with them. And the animals are not the same animals they used to be. They used to be larger animals in many locales. The big animals are nothing but targets. Finally, we're getting some help on that, and a lot of it has to do with CITES. Brazil was never great on animal conservation or habitat conservation, but they are now starting to climb out.
Okay.
And some of the younger Brazilians who I've worked with and talked to are really putting their love into it, and they're next on the line and trying to make a difference.
Okay.
And it's a great thing. CITES is complex. CITES looks at the entire biosphere. It includes plants. It's not just animals. And the idea is to get as much involvement as possible and to get as many people working in CITES. They don't hate you if you don't have a PhD or work for a zoo.
That's good.
They, in many cases, their view of the zoos is not necessarily the brightest, especially the U.S. zoos. And those of you who have not been to zoos in other countries, it'd be a good idea to go see some of them. Go see some of the great ones in Germany and Netherlands and Eastern European countries. There are some pretty remarkable places. Some pretty unremarkable ones, but you know, look and learn.
Yeah. Okay.
You sounded like you were going to say something or ask something.
No, I mean, I definitely can if you've, reached the end of your
my rant.
Yeah.
Well, I won't be done with that until I die, but
hey, fair enough. So, another obviously a main factor when it comes to CITES is Appendix 1 versus Appendix 2. What is the difference between CITES Appendix 1, CITES Appendix 2?
Well, you have to remember that CITES also has subgroups, and that the number 1, number 2 thing is more an ESA thing than it is CITES. CITES has a red list. If you're on the red list, you're in pretty bad shape. Then the red list is broken down with regard to a lot of different factors. You look at something that's red listed, and things that get taken into account are things like not just what their population is, but what their population looks like it's going to be in 10 years. That's important.
Okay.
Anything that's been done to help them along, that's really important. Anybody who's worked with them and can help to give new and better information on the status of them, it's very important. doing everything that we can to get information from Native people as to the status of this, that, and the other thing. That's all super important. ESA is making silly regulations that don't benefit the animals in most cases, and the stringency with which they are enforced begs to be making, well, tell it like it is. You're making criminals.
Yeah.
That doesn't help anybody.
Sure.
Get these laws and regulations into the 20th century, 21st century now, and start working with people with education. And education isn't just grab a book and study. By education, I'm talking about carefully targeted and reasonably intrinsic conservation. Be able to reach people. Reaching a classroom today is utterly different than it was 50 years ago.
Sure.
Utterly different. And you have to be prepared for that. You have to adjust your teaching to accommodate. You have to be able to catch their eye. You have to be able to surprise them. You have to be able to make them interested and make them want to see more. Then you've been successful. Let them touch the animals. We are primates. We are vocal. We go very heavily on our senses of touch and speech. Talk to the animals. We're completely different when we're speaking. We give off different pheromones, different hormones when we speak. I always encourage people who work with me to talk to the animals. They may not understand the words, but they understand a lot more than you'd expect them to. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah.
And these are the things that we're ignoring. Just more regulations piled on more regulations, and more of you can't do this, you can't do that. Start telling people what they can do and what will help. Stop telling them what they can't do.
Yeah.
There are certain circumstances where you have to, it's the only way to do it, and when you're down to 3 animals or something, but let's not get down that far. Let's not allow that to happen. Migratory Bird Act, I'm not going to get into it. All I will say is that it had a place at one time for certain species, but it's done remarkably little considering how stringent it is and how it's enforced and what people do. Anybody paid attention in the last week and a half, a lady was caught taking goose eggs out of a nest in a Chicago suburb. And that's illegal because they're a migratory animal, blah, 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 blah. If you live anywhere in the north central or northwest, you know that there are more geese than we know what to do with, and they are no longer migrating because they get handouts. So we got millions of geese that are, not only are they not in any danger, we should be culling them to get them out of there and getting them back into the air so they could be geese again instead of fat things that sit around all winter and get fed with white bread. And yeah, it really is that bad. So come on, listeners, throw some stuff up in the air here so we can bat at it.
Well, a follow-up that I have, when you said that the Appendix 1, Appendix 2 is more ESA related, can you expand on that a little bit?
Well, they have these basic 3 groups. And that's not to say that there aren't some exceptions to that or some other different things, but the Class 1 animals are, I'll use Florida for an example because they follow pretty much the same. The Class 1 animals are animals that are strictly forbidden to be used for anything in any commercial way. You can't take, in many ways, or in many situations, you can't take them across state lines, and you certainly can't take them out of the country or into the country without incredibly special permission, and in many cases they just simply refuse.
Right.
They'd rather see an animal dead than break the laws that they've made, or give you an exception to the laws that they've made.
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds like good conservation, doesn't it? That's right back where the scrambling of the eggs.
Yeah.
Well, it's better than nothing. Why should that be a mantra for us? We should be doing better than better.
And is it even really better than nothing?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, and is it even really better than nothing? You could argue it's worse.
That's very true. And what you're saying, Stephen, is very true. I could get into that one again, too.
Yeah.
But it's mismanagement. It's horrible lack of education. We should be out there fighting this ridiculous legislation that's, as I said, every Tom, Dick, and Harry is foisting from some little town and big town terminals, and there's no reason for it. We should be able to take care of that ourselves, those of us who work with these animals. We should be able to set up some fairly well thought out situations, suggestions, planning for what people are going to keep, what they're not going to keep. There are animals that have never been domesticated that would be wonderful pets for people. Just nobody ever figured it out. People need pets. Other animals have pets. I've seen it with my own animals. I've seen it with some of the strangest pairs you can imagine. I was just talking about this like 2 days ago. Off the coast of Africa on an island, there was a hippopotamus, a baby hippopotamus that lost its mother, and a Galapagos tortoise. I'm sorry, not Galap, the other ones.
The Aldabra?
The Aldabras, yeah. Was in with an Aldabra. And they became absolute best buddies. Now, how can I say that? They didn't have a little sign on them that said, "We're cute." What they did was they watched out for each other. They slept adjacent to each other. When one would move to an area and eat, the other one would go with it. They were friends. This is not uncommon. It's only now, though, that we're beginning to recognize it and see what's going on. Gentleman up in Canada who works with polar bears, and he's brought up several orphan bears. And that's not the greatest thing you can do for them, but it's a whole lot better than shooting them through the head. And we learn when we have them in captivity. We learn about these animals.
Yeah.
We learn things that we could never learn with them in the wild, especially things that have to do with growth and nutrition and that sort of thing. We can watch it and control it and see what makes sense and what doesn't make sense, and realize that many of the things we thought were true, maybe not so much.
Yeah. Makes sense. Absolutely.
Did I leave you hanging there?
No, your screen is frozen, so I kind of can't really tell when you're fully done or not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it might even be on my end too. So all good. Okay, so then when it comes to,
Let's do it the AZA way. Have me killed as an example to others. Oh, I'm going to hear it for that one. Just a joke, guys. Just a joke.
Oh man. Anyway, so when it comes to the listing of species on CITES, what are the factors that they take into account, and what are some of the typical distinctions that would have an animal placed on Appendix 1 versus Appendix 2?
It's really an individual situation.
Okay.
And as I was saying before, many things, depending upon how much habitat is still left. Look, Komodo monitors or Komodo dragons, I use them a lot because they're a very visible creature and everybody knows who they are and what they are and so on from
Yeah.
2021 different movies and so forth. If mankind died tomorrow, disappeared, those animals would probably go down slightly in population. Reason being, they're really well protected and there's more food for them than there has been in the past because of things that man brought over to the various habitats that they live in.
Yeah.
So then, you know, what do you do? Well, they still list them as endangered, but they're endangered for completely different reasons. And the fact that there aren't enough of them, or, you know, they're not breeding well enough. They're breeding very well. There are lots of them around. There's no problem breeding them in captivity. They're not difficult to keep. You know, they're big, tough lizard.
Yeah.
You get into other animals where they might have very tiny populations and they never did have big populations. That's a whole different crew. What you're going to be looking at with them is what kind of room do they need to continue being what they are. You can take into account the foliage. What kind of plants are now present in their habitat that either weren't there before or need to be there now and should have been conserved as part of your conservation plan. Monitoring the species to see what the animals look like compared to the historic animals. Are we changing them? And I will bet you a whole bunch of money that's one that most people never even think about. We are changing many species of animals, and we're doing that in 1,000 different ways. They're being forced to adapt to completely different conditions than they were originally evolved to accommodate. Other things that they look at are political situations. Imagine what the bear population was like before the Ukraine war started and what it's like now.
Yeah.
How much soil is getting poisoned and how much area is being destroyed. Habitat is being destroyed by that kind of action.
Yeah.
It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. I'm not taking sides on this. We're only talking about the animals end of it. But it's something every time I see one of those cluster bombs go off or some of these huge new bombs, wherever they drop, for a mile around, they have killed virtually every living thing. Please explain to me why that's a win.
Yeah.
That's horrendous. It's absolutely horrendous. Nobody ever thinks about that. Rah, rah, let's bomb them again.
Yeah. No, that's very true. Similarly controversial topic, but, you hear that a lot when it comes to the U.S. border wall, with just how much destruction that does to the ecosystem where the wall goes up. I mean, I feel like the jaguars are the good example of like a really, charismatic megafauna that has been severely affected by the wall, but everything else that's around there is going to have the same kind of, detriment.
Yeah, people don't realize that the jaguars at one time had a pretty good population north of the border.
Yeah.
And they went almost to New England, they think.
Really?
Yeah.
I had no idea about that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, there were some fairly recent finds that suggest they went sprawling out, and
wow.
I'm sure they weren't particularly dense, but they moved.
Yeah.
And jaguars are really underrated animals. They like the water, unlike any other cat, any other big cat. They like to puddle around in the water. They're very good in the water. They also have the heaviest bite of any of the cats, proportionately. They have enormous jaw strength and very considerable teeth.
Yeah, there's that famous video of a jaguar sitting up on a bank staring into a river. You have no idea what it's looking at. It jumps down and then like a few seconds later comes out with like a 5-foot spectacled caiman, just dragging it. Thing's dead already. It's like, holy shit.
They're remarkable animals. I raised one for many, many years.
Oh, wow.
I saved a little baby jaguar and his sister. I was in Colombia, and I was doing some herp work there. And a friend of mine who was a guy who did diamond prospecting, he and I met up there. We'd run into each other here and there. He was a very nice man. He was a guy from Europe. And we were sitting in an outdoor cafe, and we looked up, and here come these two Colombians with a stick on a shoulder and a dead jaguar. And it was obvious that the jaguar was female. It was obvious that she had been nursing. And we tried to find out where the kits were left. They wouldn't tell us anything. They just got snotty with us. So we spent the better part of 3 days trying to retrace where he was and ask other people where they had seen these guys. And we finally found the kittens.
Wow.
It was almost too late. We stayed in one place for about 3 days where we were just finger feeding them. Just dip your finger and let them lick off. And we did the best we could with tapioca and some other things. And I got them back to Colombia. This was back in the late 60s. And I knew these animals were never going to be put back in the wild. We had way too much time with them. We had to have that much time in order to keep them from dying. So the female was much more flighty than the male was. She was okay, but only certain people could work with her, and she was always afraid of loud noises. And again, can you blame her? Look what they went through.
Yeah.
The male was big husky guy, just the nicest critter you ever want to run into. And he did a lot of good work for his species, including sperm donation. He was a heavily built black jaguar. About 1 in 4 or 5 turns out to be black, melanistic. They're beautiful creatures, and they're incredible to watch. And just what you described. And if they don't want to be seen, you're going to have a hard time finding them.
Yeah,
especially with as wary as they've become because of all the overhunting and everything.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, a question here from Lisa about jaguars. Aren't they known for killing by crushing the back of their prey's skull?
They can crush almost anything, but yes, you're correct. They do that for certain prey, especially smaller prey. That is a technique that the jaguars use that the other big cats are not particularly prone to.
Okay.
I saw it happen with cheetahs, which surprised me because they're fairly delicate animals compared to jaguars, which are really big lunks.
Yeah.
And jaguars are faster than you could ever believe. They're quiet and they're fast.
Well, I feel like I would believe it. I think I look at a jaguar and I think you could do anything physically, no matter what. Maybe not fly. Maybe other than fly, I feel like a jaguar can do anything physically.
They're remarkable creatures. They really are. And if you watch how much communication they do with each other and with the kids, that's something. If you can get to a place where you can observe them and they don't know you're watching, which is really hard to do.
Yeah, I could imagine so.
But it's a type of education you'll never get any other way.
Yeah.
Remarkable creatures. They really are. And they can climb, they can swim. As you said, they pretty much do it all but fly.
Man, if jaguars could fly, they would take over the world.
Yeah.
It's like I always say that if dwarf caiman got the size of salties, that they would take over the entire world.
They're smart little caiman.
Yeah.
They are certainly one of the brightest of all the caimans. There's no two ways about it.
That long neck and the power that even that tiny little caiman relative to other caiman. Yeah, I feel like if there were 15-foot dwarf caiman, the world would be a scarier place.
That's what I always said about hamsters. If hamsters got to be 15 feet long, we'd be gone.
You probably
be all over with.
You probably wouldn't know the reference, but there was an episode of South Park where there were giant guinea pigs that came from Peru that were destroying the world, and similar concept. Fantastic episode. Anyway, I think we've gotten a little off track.
It's kind of way off track for me because I don't think I've ever seen the program, which I know is a big favorite of many people.
Yes. The giant guinea pig episode's a good one.
Yeah.
All right. So
anybody want to talk about Bugs Bunny?
Drop your cartoon questions in the comments. Okay, so then I kind of want to go a little bit more practical here and talk about the the whole permitting system with CITES. Obviously, when it comes to Appendix 2 animals, their permits are issued seemingly on a fairly regular basis. From countries that allow export. We see scrub pythons, for instance, Appendix 2. What is that process like? I assume it varies in degrees from country to country.
It varies wildly.
Yeah. And
the people who do the enforcing vary wildly. But it all in the long run, it all seems to work pretty well. And it's far less didactic than the stuff for the ESA. It's more tailored to the area. It's more tailored to the people in that situation. It's more tailored to the climate that the animals are found in. There's 1,001 different things that go into the designations, but you can't profess to care about animals if you're not going to understand that we have to have them, in some respects, have a purpose or be useful or be valuable so that people can view them that way and won't immediately kill them off. Even if they don't like them, if the animals are important to them financially, they won't kill them off. There's lots and lots of ways and reasons for doing things like that. And CITES is very big on that, wanting to, for instance, with some of the crocodilian species, we saved them by making them commercially valuable.
Yeah.
Within reason. And it allowed us to control how many skins were taken. It allowed us to control what types of animals were taken. And people are a lot easier to deal with when they've got a way to make what they want happen. It might not be the best for them, but it's better than a complete nothing.
Yeah.
Which the U.S. is famous for doing. Look how well it worked in the 1920s with alcohol. That was a success, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
I'll you like $1 for everybody that got killed because of that particular culture.
I mean, it's working so well now with the war on drugs in Central and South America. Look how well that's going.
Yahoo! Yeah,
fantastic operation that we've been undertaking for decades now.
And soon we'll have 2 new drugs, or 3.
Yes, indeed.
What I'd like to do is talk for a moment about a situation I was in the last 3 weeks. I was asked to do a big, big favor. I'm not going to use any names here, and I'm going to make sure that I'm trying to be as nebulous as possible. At first, I didn't want to do it, and then they kind of sweetened the pot, saying that it would give me an opportunity to do certain things in research and so on. And a number of factors kind of fell together, and I thought, all right, I'll give this a try and do what I can. And it involved locating, collecting, and setting up two animals that were not normally put into this kind of situation in a private collection. The person that I was dealing with was not the person who ran the place. It was a lackey. And this guy had more angles than a bad geometry book. Everything was an angle. Everything. And I tried to bite my tongue, and I tried to be a good soldier and do what I could, because the gentleman who was the head of the family, this was his dream for his entire life, was to have this particular species and have it in a setting that he could enjoy from his home. And in return, I wanted to create some new conservation things that we could do with them, try to encourage more donations and more habitat protection, lots of stuff that would help all sides of it. That's where the best conservation comes from, where you can help all different people, situations, the environment, you name it. Look what happened when they put gophers back in damaged habitat. The gophers fixed it. Things that they'd been trying to do for years. Put a few gophers down, and within a few years, they had straightened things out. Look at what they're finding out about the beavers. Are you into any of the beaver stuff?
I'm not familiar, but I can imagine.
I better spell that, but anyhow, the beavers were building blockades in places that people did not want them doing it. They thought they were going to flood this place or do that to someplace else, and they'd tear it down, and one day later, the beavers had gone in and completely rebuilt it the same thing, the same way. Finally, after the third or fourth time, one of the conservation people got smart and watched what the beaver was doing. He did. There didn't seem to be anything remarkable, but the beaver kept looking behind him upstream while he was doing it. It's kind of an odd thing. So the guy started walking upstream for a few miles and found out that the small stream that was involved in all of this had cut the rock deeply, and it was about to completely collapse and would flood the plains down there. So they were regulating what was going in, where it was going, and how it was coming out again.
Wow. Because
Because they knew how to do it. It's like, leave it to beaver. Sorry, I had to. But these guys, they have intrinsic knowledge that we don't have. They have senses that we don't have.
Yeah.
And before you do anything with them, you best take a few steps back, look at them, watch them, figure out what they are, how they operate with each other, and you can learn an awful lot. Awful lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. And I can name, probably off the cuff, 20 species that are responsible for maintaining habitats in ways that you would never believe they could.
Yeah.
They're finding that out in Madagascar with the lemurs and how they're losing areas because of the loss of the lemurs.
Really? What effect does the lack of lemurs have on the environment?
They're not completely sure how this works, but they have a habit of working areas and feeding in a way that causes better growth. And how they do this, I don't know, but their scat deposited in a particular way. There's one lady who's been working on that. They're following all kinds of interesting things with these guys. Unfortunately, most of it's too late. Madagascar used to be a naturalist paradise. Now it's just another spot where we're screaming and running faithfully to try to keep it from sinking into the ocean.
Jeez.
Another naked land.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah. Have you ever been to Madagascar?
No.
No?
Wish.
I didn't know if you had or not. It's the first time I was there was probably 1968, and there was still a bit left at that time. It was like being in another world. So many endemic species of plants. The plants were just beautiful to look at. Just incredibly strange things.
Yeah.
Really was like another world.
Yeah, I can imagine so.
Let's get back to one other thing though. Why in the world aren't the people involved in whatever you want to call it, keeping herps, people who love reptiles, why aren't you fighting? Why aren't you doing some good with all of this? Why aren't you stopping some of this legislation? I mean, we know of one organization that's trying to do their best. Do we dare name him?
To fight our side, or that we're fighting
Fight our side, yeah.
Oh well, yeah, of course, yeah. We're always big fans of USARC over here.
USARC, right? And Phil, who's the director of USARC, has done a great job.
Absolutely.
I have nothing but compliments for Phil.
Likewise.
But there's one of him.
Right.
You know, why is there only one of him? Why don't we have 24 working under him that are fiercely bringing to light the foolishness that's gone on and money that's wasted on ridiculous, meaningless legislation?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? That's like having, Bigfoot regulations. Oh, never know when Bigfoot's going to come and crush your whole house. So you better get with the program here and outlaw any big feet in the area.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. And now I'm not making any comments about whether I believe that they exist or don't exist. I'm just using them as an example of the foolishness that we get into.
Yeah.
Start teaching people how to work with animals. 97% of the people who get dogs are not equipped to handle those dogs. They love them, but they have no idea how to work with them.
Yeah.
Things would be so much better for them and for the dogs if they were taught. Don't teach the dog, teach the people. That's an old adage, but it could not be more true.
Yeah.
And same thing with the herbs. Let's start doing some things that are purely educational. Stop worrying about morphs and whether I've got a half-calf, decalf, split and bee. It doesn't matter. What matters is protecting the home species, protecting the animal that everything was derived from.
Yeah.
It's real hard to get it back once you've mutated it to hell.
That is very true. Yeah.
There should always be assurance colonies for every species, and those colonies mean that we have something to draw from if all hell goes up through the ceiling and down.
Yeah.
Having animals in various places is always preferred. And if every single tiger, well, I shouldn't say it that way, if every single Bengal tiger that existed in the world disappeared tomorrow, they could repopulate probably with what's in captivity.
Yeah, that's good in that instance, but there are definitely plenty of instances where that is not the case.
And there are challenges that are endemic to each species. There are things that we need to know about them, but that's how we found out so much. Those of us who worked seriously in conservation, those of us who work seriously with reptiles and amphibians, as I would like to think I have for 60 odd years, we dump a lot back into the bowl.
Yeah.
But it's so willy-nilly, and we have so many people who think they're qualified, and they're more concerned with ego than they are being successful with the animals.
Yeah.
If I hear the word awesome one more time as it regards the animal, I think I'll have to get an airplane barf bag. What's awesome about those animals is not what you're talking about. What's awesome about those animals is how they operate.
Yeah.
What's unique about a particular species. And yes, unique means one thing and one thing only. It means one of a kind. It's not very unique and sort of unique, or very unique and sort of unique. I'm going to go into an English lesson. I'll be quiet now.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean though. Yeah. I mean, there are definitely people out there who really do care deeply about the animals that they work with and are interested beyond the surface, but still.
And they could be of such benefit, Stephen. If they started to get together in small groups. Years ago, we had herpetologic societies in the United States that were very serious. The Chicago Herp Society it's one of the few that's still around.
Yeah, I mean,
and they were damn side professional.
I grew up down the street from the Nature Museum where they had I was there.
Yep.
What a place.
They'd have meetings that were meaningful. They'd have displays. They would do all kinds of stuff. They'd educate each other. They'd look for new and better things to talk about. Yeah. That's all disappeared.
Yeah. I think unfortunately, it's going to sound interesting coming from me in this format, but I think in a way, podcasts have kind of been part of the, with social media, but particularly like the podcast format has kind of replaced what was the Herp Society of the past. Kind of an
the problem with that is you lose the person.
Oh no, I'm. It's not better like this.
No, I know. I'm just saying that it will never replace one-on-one or real life discourse.
No question.
The things that make us successful primates rather than slugs on a piece of glass.
Yeah.
People need to learn to talk again. I did a talk at a rather unusual place this last weekend, and by the way, I'd never finished talking about. We're going all over the place tonight. I never finished talking about the thing that I was doing with the animals that I was going to collect.
Yes,
I never finished that, so I'll go back to that in a moment.
Okay.
But I did a lecture at a convention up in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, and it was a oddities and cryptids. I think is a better word for it. Cryptids and strange animals and strange creatures, strange people. But the people were exceedingly polite. They were a lot of fun to talk to. They asked questions, not as many as I would have liked, but they were at least asking some.
Yeah.
And they were truly open-minded people who were there. Some of that may be a little misguided, but man, I'd rather see that than hell raising by some lunatic. who didn't know what the hell he was talking about.
Yeah.
These people were really nice people. It's like somebody somewhere found a nautilus, where it contained some of the nice people. They opened it up long enough for them to come to the show.
Hmm.
It was very interesting. I ended up doing one full talk that I'll save that for another day. But one of the people who was there was Ken Gerhardt, who's pretty well known from TV. It's on a lot of the what if shows, as we call them. And I hadn't met him before. And I didn't have a particularly positive view of him based on what I had seen him do and be involved in on TV. And it turns out the guy is not only a very nice person, but he's extremely knowledgeable, has a memory that I wish everybody could have. Just a good guy. And we got into one discussion after another about places we've been and things that we've seen and things that we've done. And it was a lot of fun. Conservation can be fun too.
Mm-hmm.
Start looking at it that way and start looking at the things we can do to make it better.
Yeah. No doubt.
So anyhow, back to the animals that I was supposed to come up with, and all of this for this one elderly gentleman. He had this guy working for him who got to the point where I was about ready to put his nose in a doorway or something and just lock the door. I hate to sound that way, but the guy was just unbelievably irritating, and he was constantly drinking. I don't go well with people who drink while they're working.
Yeah.
And thing after thing after thing, he screwed up. And finally, I just said, I called him up, said, that's it. And he said, what do you mean that's it? I said, that's it. I'm not being involved in any of this anymore. You're not giving me access to the information I need. And a big part of this had to do with CITES. He would not give me the name of the gentleman who was going to get the animals. He would not give me the gentleman's address and phone number, which all are necessary with CITES. You don't, I'll say it, you don't fuck with CITES. You don't. They're fair with you, you be fair with them, and don't play games, or you're going to get in a world of hurt and a world of trouble. And I just dropped right out of the thing, and next thing you know, this dumbass who had just infuriated me. I mean, I did everything I could to bite my tongue. He just wouldn't catch on. And he wanted me to do something that would be breaking my word to someone that I've known for my entire life, just to get him a photograph that he wanted. I said, don't you get it? I made a promise to somebody. I keep that promise. Do you have any idea what that means? Don't ever ask me again. Well, 2 hours later, he starts criticizing me because I won't feed his curiosity. But that's where the whole sightings thing kind of arose for today, was coming behind that. I had all the sightings stuff ready to go. I could have slid this together like the proverbial snail snot. It would have been easy. Everything would have been fine. The animals would have been taken out of the wild in an appropriate place at an appropriate time and selected for hardiness. Try to make sure that animals weren't gravid, et cetera, et cetera. And then once they got into captive situation, I would do the necessary medicating and worming and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Get them into a condition where they wouldn't freak out. And yeah, I know that's not a professional expression, but child of the 60s, I guess.
I think we all know what you mean by that.
I hope so.
Yeah.
It's a phrase that has endured, let's say.
Sure has. It's very
It sure has, yeah.
So I guess on that topic, from the standpoint of somebody in the U.S., what is the process of getting CITES paperwork for, I guess, let's go both importing into the U.S. and then also exporting?
Well, obviously, you've got to go to one of the offices, and it can be done a couple of ways. It can be done with or without the local person, depending upon the species. And again, there are so many what ifs to this. Certain species require more than other species as far as workups, and Nile crocodiles for many years were protected as endangered species, and probably rightly so.
Okay.
But when they became much more available, even pests in some areas, CITES adjusted. And what they adjusted was population. If you were from population ABC and not DEF, then you weren't considered endangered. And if you could prove that they came from the non-endangered population, everything was fine. You could have commerce with them and they'd be treated as an Appendix 2 or something like that.
Okay.
I guess the thing I'm trying to stress is that CITES is not a single movement. Good CITES is where you look at the situation, follow the rules, but the rules are flexible under the right circumstances.
Okay.
It makes a world of difference, absolute world of difference. One of the first things, those of us who work with crocodiles, and I am probably best known for my work with crocodiles, crocodilians, is to see how quickly you can get them off of the red list. And the way you do that is make them valuable in some fashion to human beings. Sometimes it's the hide, sometimes it's meat, sometimes it's as an attraction.
Yeah.
Like they do with the whales up in Alaska. They're not eating them, obviously, but they're going and looking at them. Tens of thousands of dollars have been donated to the whale funds by people who have gone to see the whales. That's a wonderful way to do it.
Yeah.
Go take a look at these animals. Be respectful. Understand what they are. Learn more about them if you're so inclined. Or just plain sit down and watch some of the most amazing creatures ever to swim this planet.
Yeah.
I've never seen a blue whale. I would love to. 110 feet of sleek, beautiful muscle.
Yeah.
What's not to love about that?
It's almost unbelievable that an animal like that actually exists.
It is. It's very much that way. You sit back and you should be humbled by even looking at the animal.
Yeah.
It's just incredible. It's a feeling. I mean, the first time I went diving with great white sharks, I never had any fear. I didn't know before I did it whether I would have some fear or not, but I had no fear. I just had admiration and a deep feeling of, wow, you are incredible.
Yeah.
Not me, the shark. And got to free swim with them, and it was just an amazing opportunity. It took me years to find a place where I could do that. Every time I show up somewhere, oh, there was a great white here just like a month ago. Oh, yeah, okay. And then there'd be the next place and the next place. And finally, in a place called Dangerous Bay, South Africa, was where I got to see my very first great whites in person.
Sounds like a safe place.
Yeah. Dangerous Bay.
Yeah.
And the Dangerous Bay has nothing to do with the sharks. It had to do with the storms.
Okay.
A lot of stormy weather there. But, the first great white that I saw was an animal that was about 15 feet long, which is nothing to sneeze at.
No, that's huge.
And that day, they never expected us to see a single one. It's a long story I'm not going to go into now, but I was just happy to finally be on a boat. And there was another fellow there who was a shark, quote unquote, expert, who was from Germany, who was scared out of his mind of sharks.
Oh,
He was so scared of sharks. It was
interesting.
just sad. His
Shark-
girlfriend was about ready to throw him overboard.
Uh,
We'd put him in the shark cage. He'd bounce out like a jack-in-the-box. He was scared to death of sharks. Why didn't he get into roller skating or something,
yeah, it seems like a strange dynamic. Shark guy scared of sharks.
Yeah. Weird.
Interesting.
And there are so many different things that we could be doing to raise money, and nobody's helping. It's just not happening.
Yeah.
The auctions for USR, yes, those are considerable. But that's about the only thing that's going on.
Yeah.
There's nothing else going on.
True.
We need to be convincing people that there's good reason to have groups. There's good reasons to not just have the groups, but actually have, wherever possible, fees for belonging to that group.
Hmm.
It doesn't have to be anything big, $5 or $10 or something, but just so that it creates an atmosphere. You're a little special when you do that, and your group is a little special. You've actually contributed something.
Yeah.
Give it some value. And that's what we've done with the crocs. And that's why we've gotten, 4 species off the brink. And a fair number of others, at least in better shape than they were.
Yeah.
We're starting to see some stuff come back that we didn't even know was there.
Wow.
So, Stephen,
Mhm.
if you were the Supreme Pontiff here, which animal would you send people out to work with tomorrow?
Man, it's a fantastic question. I'm not even sure if I could come up with an answer for that. Yeah, because there's so many different ways to approach that, as far as, one that I like personally, or consequential to the habitat, or whatever it may be. Yeah, I think you may have stumped me here. I mean, I could think of some that I'd like to see, but yeah, to me, there's not one that really jumps out. A lot of the species I love, I could say, but I'm not sure that would be of most consequence.
Well, I'll take the question then.
All right.
As you know, I've worked with Cyclura my entire life,
Yeah.
and I would get every single species of Cyclura into a solid situation with good groups of them off island at various places where they are used for not just reproduction, but also with an eye on teaching and an eye on genetics and lots of other stuff.
Mhm.
I think it's very doable if I had the money. I think it's definitely very doable. And I know enough about the island cultures because of having lived with them so long. I think I could make an incredible difference if I just had the funding to do it, and a little bit of help from some of the other big organizations.
Yeah.
So that would be my first choice. Doesn't mean I don't like other things, but they need the help.
Sure.
Probably more than anything else.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Their range is such limited.
Yeah.
Bitty chunk.
Yeah, and we for anybody who's interested in the topic, we did almost 2 full episodes on Cyclura a number of months ago.
Yeah, we barely touched it. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
there'll be no extra charge for this, kids. I'm going to pull out a little list here that I put together.
Okay.
And these are the species and subspecies of the Cyclura. If you're all ready, Cyclura caymanensis, and people are going to jump right away and say, "Oh, that's actually just a subspecies of the Cuban." It's not. There's more than you know that's different about those animals. It's just nobody ever spent the time to did the comparisons that were necessary. Cyclura lewisi. You should know what that one is, right?
Of course.
That's the blue iguana
Yes.
from Grand Cayman. That has had to come back from about 13 or 14 animals. That's what they were down to.
Yeah.
Just disgusting.
Yeah.
How about colei? Cyclura colei.
Where are they from?
See if anybody will. I'm serious about this. See if anybody will write the answer to that question.
Okay.
Cyclura colei, Colleie. Cyclura figgensi, Cyclura nubila,
Mm-hmm.
Cyclura riley,
Mm-hmm.
Cyclura inornata, Cyclura carinata and variants. There are a number of variations of Cyclura carinata.
Mm-hmm.
Cyclura anchiopsis, Cyclura ricordi, Cyclura cornuta, Cyclura steinegeri, Cyclura pinguis. What do you know? There is something other than a rhino iguana. I've had the dubious pleasure of seeing every single species in captivity or in the wild.
Mm-hmm.
I've bred quite a few of them, worked with them in situ and ex situ, numerous situations and times and things. And sadly, I was the person who had to pass the word on that the Navassa Island iguana was completely extinct in my lifetime. That really sucked.
Yeah.
That really, really sucked.
I could imagine so.
An incredible species, beautiful creature. And I had to make it, or I had to watch it being made to disappear. I couldn't get the funding to get anything done with it. And by the time I finally had some people interested, they were gone. I saw 2 of them in 1965. They were the only ones I could find on the island at that time. So they may have been the last 2 that ever existed.
Wow.
How do you think that feels, guys?
Can't imagine feeling good.
It's horrible. So if anyone wants to throw anything in here about the Cyclura, or you want to make some guesses as to which ones are from where, we'd have a little fun with that.
Okay. In the meantime, we do have another question, unrelated, but good question nonetheless, from Lisa. So, Terry, have you heard of the Rattle Cam project? They have cameras on rattlesnake dens, and we can watch females give birth and then stay with the pups. So showing the maternal behaviors of rattlesnakes.
Yes, and I think it's remarkably good stuff. And thank you for asking about that. That's terrific. I will continue on that after. Can you go to a commercial or two right now?
I can. I kind of exhausted most of what we had at the beginning, but yeah, give me a second.
Give them a freebie.
All right.
I just gotta plug in my my phone here.
Okay. All right, everybody. Commercial.
Tonight's
Give
episode
me-
is brought to you by Mark Bailey Reptiles, my mentor and definitely my favorite ball python breeder we have today. 40 plus years, full-time reptile keeper. He's just been a huge inspiration ever since I met him. And also, if you really want to see what his work is all about, you could just simply go to morphmarket.com, type in Mark Bailey Reptiles, give him a follow. And anybody who has gotten a snake from Mark Bailey Reptiles have been super happy, and that's going for 40 plus years. So very honored and very happy to not only call Mark Bailey Reptiles a friend of mine, but also a sponsor of tonight's show. Definitely appreciate your support, Mark Bailey. Definitely look up to everything that you do. Shout out to Mark Bailey over at Mark Bailey Reptiles. Tonight's episode is brought to you by David Brahms from the Reptile Perch. If you have an arboreal species, you definitely want to make sure you are using a David Brahms design perch over at the Reptile Perch. You can get any size perch you want for any size arboreal, anywhere from hatchlings all the way from adults. Everything you see behind me is on a David Brahms design PVC perch. So thank you so much to the Reptile Perch for doing everything that you've been doing with these awesome, affordable perches for people to take advantage of. And you can find David Brahms's website in the description below. Simply go to www.reptileperch.com or just go to Reptile Perch on Instagram. And you can also see many of David's awesome green tree python projects. He's also a highly successful green tree python breeder. Been looking up to for the last few years as well. So to have his support really means the world to me. Thank you so much, David Brahms over at the Reptile Perch.
Alrighty.
We're back.
Rack.
Okay, going back to the rattlers. That's a wonderful idea. I wish we would do that with 4,000 other species.
Yeah.
We learn things quickly that way. We learn things as they're happening. And it's pretty hard to say that they don't do that when you're watching them do it on TV.
Yeah.
It's a great premise and great job. I saw some of the footage. I was very impressed. It was really well done stuff.
Okay. I'll have to check it out. I haven't
Now,
seen
let's get a question for her.
Okay.
How come she's the only one asking us questions? Come on, let's get on it.
It might just be that it's late in the show.
Come on.
We're falling off, but yeah, no, I mean the maternal behaviors of rattlesnakes, it's one of the most fascinating behaviors in all of reptiles, in my opinion. And
But it's not just rattlesnakes.
Yeah.
I can give you the names of I don't know how many different snakes where I've seen maternal behavior.
I even feel rattlesnakes, you see some paternal behavior as well. The males will get quite defensive of their new family.
Yep.
And yeah, it's pretty amazing to witness.
Yeah, the rock rattlers are such remarkable little animals. That's probably my favorite group of rattlesnakes are the rock rattlers.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
Shades of Bob Ashley there.
Yes, absolutely.
For those of you who don't know who Bob Ashley is, he's one of the gentlemen who runs a very famous show several times a year.
Indeed. Indeed.
And if he were to be nice enough to help us with this show, it would be greatly appreciated. Come on, Bob. Just teasing. Bob is a very nice man. He's done a lot to help further some types of conservation, and he certainly has done a great deal for the captive animals and learning about captive animals and doing more with captive animals.
Yeah.
He does quite a bit of traveling.
Yeah.
Just for looking at the critters and learning about them. He was working with the tuateras last year.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. That's pretty incredible.
Talk about strange creatures, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Bob's a great example of somebody who's been very successful in business in the reptile industry, but is also very much still a naturalist and has a herpetological brain, somebody who's focus is not just on the economic side of it, although he's quite good at that part of the industry.
And the other thing is he's got an enormous library. I'm guessing he has the biggest herpetological library in the United States.
Yeah.
I have a pretty good sized herp library, but can't compare with his.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hopefully hope to be able to check it out at IHS here in a couple of months. That'll be very, very cool to see.
I wish we could get people live on here so we could talk to each other.
Yeah. Yeah, that would definitely be.
I say that every time we talk, but
yeah.
It's amazing to me how poor much of the electronics have become when we're supposed to know so much more about it. Show me a program that has any type of podcast or off-premises involvement, and it's terrible.
Mm.
They're squiggly, they're screechy, they're junk compared to a 1960s telephone.
Yeah.
Why is that? Used to be when I had my girlfriend on the telephone, it really was like she was sitting next to me. Just about perfect from old Ma Bell.
Mm.
What's wrong with this picture?
Do
we have anybody out there who would like some serious crocodilian information or needs some serious crocodilian information? Or would just like to know a little bit more about some type of crocodile?
I'm always down for some crocodilian information. I enjoy it.
Well, then you're going to have to start asking some of the questions. things you want to know.
Yes. Well,
let's set an example here.
Yeah, we're pushing that 2-hour mark. I'm not sure how much longer you want to go on the show here.
We can do a little bit of something.
Okay. But yeah, crocodilian topic. Okay, so I guess to kind of tie it into the discussion today, speak a little bit about the conservation of the American croc, and I guess what benefits and or detriments both ESA and CITES have had on the the project of restoring the American crocodile.
Ha. I'm going to have to give you a very fragmented answer.
Okay.
First of all, the American croc is in bad shape throughout much of its range.
Yeah.
The next thing is there are different geographic morphs and possibly different subspecies of the American crocodile.
Okay.
And at least one that might even be a full species.
Okay.
There are places where they're doing okay, but there aren't many. Belize is one place they're sort of doing okay. Mexico used to have a very large population of them. Of course, they were wiped out for the most part. There are a few here and a few there. Jamaica, the animal that's found there, although it's listed as an American croc, may in fact not be a true American crocodile.
Really?
It's a very long story, but it may not be true. It may be a different critter. More closely related to the Cuban croc than the acutus, the American croc.
Fascinating.
Then we've got the animals in Haiti, and they are probably all gone now. But they were a bit divergent from some of the others. But the ones that were really strange were the ones next door to Haiti in Dominican Republic, in the Big Salt Lake. They were for years listed as a different species. That has never been settled.
Wow.
Somebody needs to get in there and get the information. There are a few of them. Not a lot, just a few. and they live in Lake Enriquillo, which is a landlocked lake with a lot of salt in it. Very, very interesting, very ancient place. We really need to know a lot more about them. Then you go down the coast on the Atlantic side until you run out of American crocodiles, and you got little bits and pieces of them here and there. If you go down on the Pacific side, you got the same thing, little here, a little there, but you also have a high altitude animal that, if they still exist, was much more slender, darker in color, and had a very narrow mark on the head. They were given subspecific identity for a while, and then everybody forgot they ever existed. I actually had one time.
Wow. Okay.
Many, many, many years ago, 1965, 66, 66, 1966.
Wow.
Odd looking creature. Very much is. Again, what I'm trying to tell you is that that's kind of a bad one for you to pick, because there are so many what ifs and so many not quites in that group of animals. The ones in the United States have made something of a comeback, but by no means what they used to be.
Sure.
I have a couple of old photographs that were taken off the coast of Miami on sandbars, and in one of them you can count over 100.
Wow.
On one sandbar. Some pretty good sized crocs too.
Impressive.
But they used to rule the world down there.
Yeah.
Now there's stragglers here and stragglers there, and if it wasn't for the nuclear plant, there wouldn't be any at all. Or damn few.
Why's that?
The Turkey nuclear plant has provided nesting and protection for the American crocodile for years, unintentionally. The coolant areas, the areas where they dump the coolant water, the water's clean. There's nothing wrong with the water. It's just that it goes in room temperature and it comes back out superheated.
Okay.
And it drains into these large areas, acres and acres of cooling strips. And one day, a female crocodile, found her way in there, said, "Hey, this is a good place to raise kids." And next thing you know, she had a whole little batch of kitties following her around, just as proud as can be. The next year, she invited a couple of friends, apparently, and they showed up with her. And now, every year they have probably 60 or 70 of these animals nesting. The biggest group of them anywhere in the United States.
Wow.
And, the nuclear plant that saved the crocs.
What's like the nearest kind of larger town that it's?
Oh, it's down in the upper part of the Keys.
Okay. Got you.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's fascinating. Huh. What do you know?
Yeah, they truly remarkable critters.
Yeah.
And what people don't realize is how big they used to get. When I was a kid, very small kid, all in all, I got to see some of the animals that used to live in the islands. And I saw animals that were 16, maybe 17 feet long.
Jeez.
Those are big boys and girls.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
The ones that live in Belize still have a chance of getting big.
Okay.
They've been used as a tourist trap, so to speak. No puns intended. and they have a pretty good population there, and some pretty good sized ones.
Okay.
They also tend to be pretty easygoing there. There's a lot of behavioral differences in the various populations of the American crocs.
Interesting.
The ones on either side of Mexico are very flighty and do not like to get messed with or followed around. They're very nervous.
Okay.
You go to the ones in Colombia, and they're much more laid back. Nobody has a reason.
Interesting. What do you know?
So you get one more question here tonight.
Well, I'll pass that question on here to Lisa. She has a follow-up. She said, am I wrong, but is there evidence to believe that introduction of Burmese pythons might actually be helping the American crocs to come back? I've heard this narrative as well.
Who is this person, and why do we like her so much?
Lisa is the best. She is fantastic. White-lipped python breeder extraordinaire. Overall, tremendous horticulture.
Well, I'd love to meet her sometime.
If she ever made it out to a Midwest show, you would definitely meet her.
There is truth in what she is saying. The complexities of that are too much to go into. That whole Burmese python thing is far more complex than people realize. And so many things have happened to accommodate it into the environment that they're now living in.
Yeah.
Do they belong there? No. Should they be removed from there? Yes. But in the meantime, they're not doing anywhere near the harm that they're being accused of.
100%.
Just not happening.
No question. Yeah, there's no real science you could point to that would even remotely suggest that.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. And I'm sorry about our difficulties at the initial part of our talk tonight.
I think,
but I really wish some of you would get out there and ask some questions, things that you want to know. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
And some of us have been around long enough to know something occasionally. We want you to have good information. We want you to learn things that may surprise you. We want you to learn things that may cause you to be appalled at it, but at least you're going to learn.
Yeah.
You need to learn. You need to read. You need to do things that will advance your views on these animals from every direction. If you really love them, show your love. Learn about them.
Yeah.
And for God's sake, don't impulse buy. If you're going to buy an animal, that's fine, but make sure it's an animal that you can accommodate, and make sure that you've learned as much as you can. And this is where those funny things come in. Books, remember them? They're like television for smart people.
Yes, indeed.
I always leave you speechless with that one, don't I?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what books are, so you remind me that they exist every time we do a podcast.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you. And for everybody who may be new, again, what's the website, the best ways to donate to support the Conservancy? What should everybody go and check out?
Yeah, how stupid am I? I didn't even give a bump to our own Conservancy. We really need the help.
That's what I'm here for.
We are a nonprofit. I think there's only one more similar nonprofit in the United States. None of us take a salary of any kind, and we need help. Our three primary donors have passed away over the last 6 years, and things are rough, to say the least. We need food for the animals. We need money for everything from repair to daily electrical usage, propane, fixing this and fixing that. Please help us. Thanks, everyone. And if you've got questions and we haven't answered them or you haven't had a chance to ask them on the show, save them up. I think it would be fun to do maybe 15 or 20 minutes each show. Questions that are on things that we've already done or touched on.
Yes, absolutely.
People who weren't able to listen to it live.
No question about it. Yeah. So, I mean, if anybody has any questions, shoot them to me in a DM or wherever. And the website is the dragonwoodconservancy.org, correct?
That is correct.
So everyone go check out the dragonwoodconservancy.org. And Terry, thank you as always for being here.
We also have a Facebook page.
Okay. Yes. Facebook, Instagram. So please go check that out. And but yeah, once again, thank you so much, Terry, for being here tonight. As always, this information is at a premium. So I really appreciate your willingness to be so forthcoming with it. Always.
Well, I appreciate the fact that you're willing to put up with me for that length of time. And I try not to pontificate. I try to give people information in a way that they can absorb relatively painlessly what we're trying to get across. And if you've got suggestions for us, for God's sake, bring them up.
Absolutely.
I'd love to see some new ideas come out of the show.
Yeah.
And that is not a reflection on you, Stephen. It's a reflection on our audience. Just needs to get up there and needs to talk. The thing that I did with the cryptos over the weekend, even they would hardly ask any questions. But as soon as I was done, they'd all flock around and start asking questions. Well, that doesn't do any good. You need to do it in front of other people. If you're wondering about it, so are 10 other people who are afraid to ask.
True.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Yep. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Terry. And we will catch you all back here next week for a new episode.